Hello and welcome to another edition of the Extra Point Show. I am your host, Nick Rice. We have our first division champion of the NFL's greatest team season. At Three Rivers Stadium, Thursday Night Football featured division rivals Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and the Steelers prevail on a thrilling fourth quarter comeback. 1987 Browns, 1978 Steelers. Bradshaw and the Steelers fell behind 9-0 in the fourth quarter of this backyard division brawl. Then Pittsburgh frantically rallied and got some help from some fourth quarter miscues out of Cleveland, and the Steelers preserved the win after Cunningham reels in the fourth down score from Terry Bradshaw late. Cleveland, meanwhile, was just 1 for 9 in a putrid effort on conversions in the road loss on Thursday night. 1998 Broncos, 2006 Colts. Manning against Elway, and it was the Colts' Peyton Manning who earned the Offensive Player of the Week award out of the AFC. His excellent effort against Denver was a big reason why they won. However, Gary Brackett picked off one of the two Elway passes and returned it for the clinching touchdown in a Colts victory, 34-23. 1988 Bengals, 1998 Vikings. Plenty of offense in this game as well, as both quarterbacks threw for over 200 yards. Minnesota had the better day rushing with Robert Smith. The Pro Bowl running back goes over 100 yards for the 7th game this season, but it was the Vikings' Mo Williams, a third stringer, who helped guide the Vikings to a big win in overtime. Minnesota is now 9-4 and currently the 2 seed in the NFC. Before we put a wrap on week 14 of the year, Charger 295 has 2 game balls to hand out for the week's best offensive and defensive performance. Tampa Bay quarterback Tom Brady, 19 for 24, 301 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Jets in a must-win at home. That is a perfect passer rating for the Hall of Fame quarterback, and his performance over the last 3 weeks has been spectacular. None better than against a very good New York defense with their season on the line. Indianapolis linebacker Gary Brackett. We mentioned in that game at Denver in which his pick 6 was critical for the win against the Broncos, but his 5 tackles and 1 for loss exemplified an all-around terrific game for the product out of Rutgers. The 1998 Broncos will be AFC West champions with a win against Oakland coupled with the San Diego loss this weekend. So the Raiders could help keep this thing alive with a victory on Sunday. San Diego has the tiebreaker over just about everybody in the conference, let alone Denver in the AFC West, and Kansas City is still alive too at 6-7. But that Bronco-Raider game this weekend could determine everything in this airtight division. Meanwhile, the NFC North, we have a major surprise as the Vikings lead it at 9-4 overall. This week, Minnesota visits Carolina, a tough matchup for them. Meanwhile, Green Bay and Chicago are just a game back in the win column with 3 weeks to go. Let's check out the current division leaders out of the AFC, led by the club that clinched their division, the 78 Steelers. New England could jump in front by tiebreakers if everything turns out right for them the rest of the year. Meanwhile, Denver and Indianapolis round out the division standings, while Jacksonville shares the Colts' 7-6 record. Also, Miami is 8-5 and the first wild card team out of the AFC. San Francisco leads the NFC at 10-3 overall, led by Montana and Rice. This team has been so good from really the first kickoff of the season, and they could at least clinch a playoff spot this weekend with a win at Philly and some help. Minnesota and Carolina join Dallas as the division leaders right now, with St. Louis and Green Bay as the wild card clubs if the postseason started today. We began the season with 256 games to determine the 12 playoff clubs in the NFL's greatest team season. We're down to only 48 games, and a lot of these playoff spots could be clinched this weekend in a thrilling Week 15. Let's check out the schedule right now. Here is the upcoming docket for Week 15 of the Greatest Team season. 4 of these games are division matchups beginning on Thursday night between Indianapolis and Jacksonville. We have a rare Saturday night game, the next one down between the 92 Cowboys and the 09 Saints. Meanwhile, another 3 division games begins with New England and Buffalo, a late afternoon clash between Oakland and Denver, and Monday night featuring the Giants and the Redskins. 2006 Colts, 1999 Jaguars. Going into the year, this wasn't necessarily a game that many were circling on their calendars, but considering the stakes, this is a must-watch on Thursday night. The Colts can wrap up the AFC South with a road win against the Jaguars, but with the game time weather expected to be 86 degrees and rainy, well, we've got quite the conditions to contend with, and that may slow down the high-powered Colts. Indianapolis ranks 6th in offense and 12th in the red zone. If they convert those red zone trips like they have this year, this may be a long day for the Jaguars. 1996 Packers, 1978 Steelers. 2 legendary franchises and 2 of the greatest single-season teams in NFL history, and both have a spot in the postseason with a win on Sunday and some help. Favre has been brilliant, but Edgar Bennett, his running back, has been as bad as anybody in the league, and that might be a guy that the Steelers attack early as they come in 3rd overall in total defense. 2020 Buccaneers, 2013 Seahawks. Tom Brady, in his otherwise illustrious career, has never defeated the Seahawks in Seattle. We are expecting a torrential downpour from the Pacific Northwest, which certainly will play a role in Brady's performance against the Seahawks this weekend, and that has to be at the mind of Brady, as despite the recent winning streak, Tampa must win this game or their playoff chances are done. Seattle's won 3 games in a row. Meanwhile, Tom Brady has played his best football over the last 3 weeks, throwing 7 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in the last 3 Sundays. A highly consequential Week 15 of the NFL's Greatest Team season begins this Sunday with highlights and the Extra Point Show, game of the week following that. Before the entire week of football, check out all of the stats, news, and analysis with game stories and recaps too at DreamSeasonFootballLeague.com. That is DreamSeasonFootballLeague.com. Until then, I am Nick Rice, and this has been The Extra Point.